Hey there, Cozy Babe, and welcome back to the Cozy Babes Club podcast. I'm your host, Chloe Taylor, and today we are talking about how I have been navigating a crisis of faith. If you're somebody that has gone through one, I feel like I have a lot to say about this topic for a myriad of reasons. Number one, if you didn't know, now you will know. Saturn actually went through Pisces for the last 3 years, and this was a major transit for everyone. If you want to know about Saturn and Aries, I actually just put a video out on my Patreon covering it. But Saturn through Pisces was to me crisis of faith. And it wasn't like, oh, if you have natally Saturn in Pisces, you went through that. It was like collectively everybody had to understand and come to a place where they could kind of move through life faithless or like nothing going your way or feeling like you had to endure. I feel like endurance was a really big part of the Saturn and Pisces transit because everybody's vices, escapes, and coping mechanisms were being challenged. Whether that was escaping through spirituality, escaping through faith, escaping through coping mechanisms that were not working for you anymore. And so I feel like this brought this on for a lot of people. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it this week. But also, I talked about this several weeks ago. I made an episode of my podcast. It was, I think, back in like March. So it's been months actually. I made an episode titled like My Crisis of Faith. And ever since then, I haven't really touched back on it. And I'm not saying that I'm like 100% through it and everything's sunshine and rainbows again, but I do feel like I just want to talk more about that time, what that was like, how I feel like I kind of have come out of it, because maybe you've gone through something similar and you just need somebody to listen and like basically like resonate or maybe give you some tips on how to pull yourself through this time if you're going through it right now. That's my intention for this episode, is that somebody out there, whether you've gone through this, are going through this, or know somebody going through this, that you will be able to come out the other side. And also just like knowing that you're not alone, you know? So I feel like ultimately, I feel like there were a lot of things that triggered my crisis of faith, but that entire year was just a really hard year. My mother went through chemotherapy. My nephew passed away, I want to say that same year. The lease on my house that I was renting went up and they didn't choose to renew with us, me and my husband and our cats. And I was not in a position to afford a move whatsoever. Like, even right now, I couldn't imagine doing that. Like, things have just been really hard in that department for several years. So that was really scary and really crazy. I feel like it was a lot of things. I also was very isolated where I was living. I was in a town with a population of 3,000 people, much older, like the age range of the town geared towards a much older, I guess, population. Not that I need to be like ageist or anything, but I went to an event and tried to make friends with the older crowd, and I got totally snubbed, put down for how young I was. I literally outright asked someone to like be my friend at that time, and they looked at me and said that they like didn't need friends, that they didn't have time for their own friends right then and there. And I understand that nobody owes me friendship. Like, that is, end of the day, nobody owes me friendship. Nobody owes you friendship. But it was just like, you know how when you're already hurting and somebody doesn't know they're stepping on something that already hurts? That was my experience. I was already hurting. This person had no idea. I don't necessarily hold it against them, but it was just like one bad thing after another, so much to the point that I did a road opener spell at one time in 2023, I believe that was. I did a road opener spell, or 2024 actually. I did a road opener spell, which is where you go and get like dirt at a crossroad. You get an orange candle. There's like, you can do it a multitude of ways, but I did it my way. And I was like, open the road for me. Like, everything feels like it's deadlocked. I feel like nothing is working. My business is not bringing in the revenue that it used to. So I can't afford to change my situation. Help me. And I mean, I do think it worked in the sense that it created a lot of catastrophe for me. So, probably the biggest thing that, like, it was all of that compounded, and then for my lease to not be getting renewed when I was already struggling financially, because when you move, it's not just like, oh, you need to come up with rent. It's like rent plus a deposit plus a moving truck. And every time I have moved, it has been a major cost. Like, I had negative dollars to my name and had to come up with money to do that. Thankfully, a lot of you really came through on that. Like, I had so many generous donations that helped me through that moving process. I also worked my butt off to like fill orders. I took on readings. My husband took on as many extra hours as he could, and we did make it through. We live in this apartment now. We moved to Tacoma, Washington, which I've talked about before. But so like the spell did work, right? I did technically have my road opened, but it was not in the way that I think I wanted. I really wanted like financially things to improve, and I felt like I was just given more problems. And granted, I see now in hindsight that moving away from where I was living was a very much a blessing. Like, the house that I lived in, the people that rented it to us, terrible people. Not the actual owner of the home. I didn't know him because they went through a property management company, but the property management company, the worst company I have ever dealt with. I have steered people away from them. People that like from that town that I lived in, if they have asked, I have steered them away from that company because they I don't even want to get into it because I will sit here and spiral and talk about it for like an hour. Like, the things that were said to me and my husband, the things that were done, honestly, again, I can't even get into it because it's still too triggering for me personally. It was such a terrible experience. But like, cried myself to sleep every night for a really long time. I was so stressed out and needlessly stressed out by the woman that runs the office there. Like, just a terrible human being. Like, I don't wish bad things on people, but in the words of the Dixie Chicks, I do not wish her well. Hope her life went terribly after that. Like, absolutely one of the worst human beings I've ever had the nightmare, the displeasure of knowing. But I feel like that really was like what triggered that crisis of faith, was a lot of compounding things over and over, and feeling like no matter what I did, I couldn't get my head above the water. No matter how hard I worked, no matter how many new things I tried. Like, I want to say in that same year, I also designed like 2 or 3 courses. I got my podcast up and running. I had really tried to do more and tried to like change the course of my life, and it just was not working. So I feel like that made me feel like, okay, obviously, like, the universe does not give a F about me. Is there even anything outside of me that exists? Probably not. Like, it left me feeling so cynical and hollow because nothing felt like it was working in my favor. And I felt like I was just being given adversity after adversity, is really what it boils down to. Now, I want to say, before I had this huge crisis of faith, I always say that, like, I was like a magic baby. I believed in, and I think to some degree I'm still a magic baby. Like, you can't keep a Sag rising down for too long. But I feel like I believed in so much. I believed in the hope of humanity. I believed in the hope of the universe. I had so much hope and so much blind faith that everything was interconnected and every number that I saw was a message for me. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to live that way. I think to a degree, some of those things I still do believe in. But I feel like prior to this like huge undoing, or this huge, like, massive upheaval in my life that felt so catastrophic and felt like it was for no good reason, I felt like prior to that, I had a lot of faith that things would always work out. And this was just, it just really soured my mood. I was just like, if I am such a good person and it's a very like religious way of looking at things. If I'm such a good person, why are all these bad things happening to me? And the reality of the situation is, you can be the best person that you want to be or can stand to be, and adversity is still going to happen. Like, you're still going to be met with challenges throughout your life because you will not grow otherwise. And I know that that's a really shitty thing to say, but it's the truth. I feel like when my faith really started to fall apart, though, it was like I was the most angry. And I hope y'all will allow me this like vulnerable moment because I've never, I don't think, really talked about it, at least not publicly. I was really angry that my YouTube channel, specifically my like Chloe Taylor YouTube channel, was just not doing well. I felt like I was doing everything right. Like my thumbnails were good, my titles were good, my video quality was better than it had ever been. And I know that I'm a good tarot card reader. Like I know that I'm good at it. Even to this day, I still expand my knowledge. I still learn new things about it. I still love it. And I was so discouraged because I want to say in like 2020, but 2020 and 2021 were really high fiscal years for me. My channel blew up year over year. I had 2020 was a great year. 2021 was an even better year. And the sad part about 2021, because I do think this is all connected to the experience that I had, the sad part about 2021 was that I was so mentally unwell for a good chunk of that year. I couldn't enjoy the success that was being given to me. Like 2021 was probably my best year online that I have ever had. Like across the board, I made the most money. I had the most views. Everything, like I moved from Utah to Washington because I could finally afford to do it. Like it was truly one of the best years in terms of that, but mentally I was in the worst shape I've ever been in. Like, and it wasn't because of YouTube. It was because I was going through something outside of it. But I feel like I've never really had like a true success that has felt really good. And like, oh, I worked so hard for this and now I'm finally here. Even in the gaming industry, when I had like moments of virality or quote unquote success, I always felt like I had imposter syndrome and I didn't deserve it for some reason. And then when I got into this niche, I did feel like I deserved it. I did feel like I was really good at my craft. I still feel like I'm really good at my craft. I feel like I couldn't enjoy it because I was mentally being so taken out of it. And I feel like from there, that was really when I like started to question things. But I think leading up to this like true crisis of faith, it had been years from 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 3 years of trying to like get my channel to be more successful and taking every tip that I could get online, following every tarot card reader I could find that I like loved what they were doing or could learn something from them. Like I am a big fan of watching what other people do that are successful in your niche and not stealing from them because you want to always be your own original authentic self. But I call it the yoink and twist, where you kind of yoink an idea that you see is really popular, but then you look at your own content and you say, how can I take this idea and expand it in a way that is for my audience, with my content, with my flair, with what I can do? And I feel like I've tried that so many times over the last 3 years that I got to this place during my major crisis of faith where I was so angry that I feel like nothing worked out. You know, I also feel like this is like the millennial curse where many of us were told if we worked hard, we would have a house, we would have 2.5 kids, we would have a picket fence. We were told that if we went to school and we got degrees, we would have good jobs. And I really feel like it's the same even in entrepreneurship. You're told as like a content creator, if you just work hard, if you just stay committed, if you just don't give up, if you just move through it, like eventually you're going to get your flowers. Eventually you're going to hit that victory. And I do technically still think that's true. I think a lot of people won't actually make it past the point of the quote unquote dip is what they call it. Most people won't make it past the dip because they don't have a strong reason why they're doing something. And I feel like I've always been really good at navigating past that. I've always been really good at letting the dip happen and choosing to stay committed and consistent anyways. And with this, for some reason, probably because it went on for so long, I got to this place where life was already upsetting me with major circumstances. I didn't feel like I was enjoying my life or what I was doing. And I felt like I wasn't also being rewarded for what I was doing. So I got to a place where, girl, I put all my tarot cards in a closet. For almost the past like 7 months, I was doing single readings on YouTube, which felt more aligned with me at the time. I had started putting this podcast, onto my main channel, which is Chloe Taylor. I'd started trying to like pivot away almost from what I had been doing because I felt like, though, like the reason I'm talking so much about my work is because I feel like that was where a lot of my faith would get tangled up. Like it was like in the quality of what I would receive for my work was how faithful I would be. And I've realized now that those two things are not necessarily running in a parallel. I do think to some degree, like to be a YouTuber or a content creator for a living, you have to have an insane belief in yourself. Like if you don't have that, you're already you're pushing a boulder uphill backwards. Like you're already having a hard time. And so I do feel like you have to have like insane belief in yourself and insane faith anyways. But I feel like it's one thing to go through a dip for 6 months, but to go through a dip for 3 years, plus have all these insane life circumstances where you're not being financially provided for. And then the spiritual community will tell you, like, just meditate more, just focus on the feeling of having more abundance, like, just do A, B, and C. But like, I was at a point where I couldn't do that because I was so stressed out by my life circumstances. Car was out for repo. I had to move location again because rent was too crazy and too much for me at that time. And now I live somewhere even cheaper. I feel like at every turn, I had such like high esteem, high belief, thought I could accomplish anything, that I also feel like I got very disconnected. And I'm sorry if this is just like a big ramble. I got disconnected from why I started in the first place. My original mission wasn't just to like make a living. Yeah, that was part of it, but I just wanted to help people. I saw other people reading tarot cards and what a positive impact that made in my life. And so I wanted to do it too. And I feel like I had really lost that. And that like robbed me of a lot of my like faith practice, robbed me of a lot of my belief in that things could work out. And then of course I did that spell and then it did work. Technically, I do think at this point in time where I live is better for me. Though I'm not in love with my apartment, it is not a house, unfortunately. I do think my day-to-day life is better living here. And so I do think in some regard, it was a very big road opener. It did help me in a major, major way, even though I couldn't see it at the time. But like, I feel like that's what I mean when I say like, the emotions that came up as I was angry, I was really angry and I felt so disappointed. I felt hopeless and disappointed and like, why did I believe in anything to begin with? And at one point, like I said, I put all my tarot cards away, put them in a closet and shut the door and was like, by the end of this year, I don't even want to read tarot cards anymore. I'm so burnt out on this. And I think when I finally gave myself that permission, that was when I actually started to get better. And I was like, oh, you mean I don't have to make myself do this? I can just do it because I want to? What? Imagine that, a concept. But I do feel like as my faith was falling apart in the harder part of it, I genuinely think it was in giving myself the permission to stop that everything started to get better. So I gave myself permission to upload less pick a cards. And then I started doing single readings. And then I started doing my podcast more. I started just exploring other avenues. And then I got like really, really inspired. Like, maybe about 6 weeks ago, maybe it's only been 4 weeks, I don't know, to pull all my tarot cards out again. And I was like, oh my God, I want to sit down and make pick a card readings. I want to do tabletop readings. I want to do this. And it happened right around the time that I broke my ankle. And I honestly think that breaking my ankle was divine intervention. Like, I think that was supposed to happen. You could not convince me otherwise. That was like divinely orchestrated. It was supposed to happen. It was such a positive, like it had such a positive effect on my mental health and on my spiritual health that that shit, it was supposed to happen. Like that needed to happen. And it gave me such a new perspective that I would not have gotten otherwise. And because I also couldn't walk around and do a bunch of stuff, I was forced to like sitting at my desk and reading cards became such a fun pastime. And it was like I reconnected with this part of me that I felt like I had lost. I had convinced myself that like maybe I'm not really doing anything. Maybe people don't resonate with my readings and everything's down because maybe I'm actually not good at what I do. Maybe people don't want to hear this. Maybe people don't want to see this. Maybe like I should just stop, you know? And I'd really convinced myself that I wasn't good at what I did anymore. And through this process of just letting myself stop, letting myself rest, letting myself do less, because back in the day, girl, I was uploading 3 YouTube videos a week. I was doing a podcast every week. I was doing Patreon pick a cards almost every single week, plus extra videos. I was also running my social media pages a lot more consistently with like themed content. And I'm a one person show. Like there was a brief period of time where my husband did some of the editing for me, but like most of my career, it has just all been me. And I feel like through trying to do so much stuff, of course I got burnt out. Of course I was feeling faithless and my life was lacking luster. Like, of course, nobody's going to resonate with what I'm doing if I'm burnt out every time I'm showing up to do it. You know what I'm saying? So, unfortunately, even though I didn't feel like I could afford to stop, I had to. And I feel like the universe also kind of forced me on pause in a way that was like, what if you just let this be fun? What if you just let yourself explore this and have fun? And once I brought the element of fun back into it, completely changed the game. Completely changed the game. I don't feel like I am fully out of my crisis of faith. I still haven't like gotten back into witchcraft super hard. I haven't like been doing things that I used to do all the time, but I do feel like I've prayed a lot more. I do feel like when I see the number 44, like I see that and I go, okay, universe, I see you. And I trust that. And I don't like step outside of it and go, that's a coincidence. Like I will actually trust it and go, okay, we're on the right path. Let's trust that. And I feel like honestly, going through the experience of breaking my ankle and having to trust myself to know that I would heal, to know that I would be okay, that in the moment I would be okay when the event happened, it like helped me to reintegrate self-trust. And I feel like a lot of my crisis of faith hindered on the fact that I wasn't trusting myself either. I felt like nothing was working and it hadn't been working for so long that I just got to this point of being at my wit's end and being like, dude, I started this whole thing in faith and feeling so good spiritually. What the hell happened? I feel like my relationship with my faith now that I feel better is that I am so much more open to divine intervention. I am so much more open to pausing and letting myself feel through something instead of just trying to work harder and harder and harder. And like, maybe it's because my sun and moon are in the 6th house of Virgo that like, I just am somebody that is like, well, here's this grand idea. Here's how we're going to lay it out. Like also Virgo in my midheaven. That's such a Virgo way of doing things. I feel like maybe I'm just like way more logical and less on that spiritual rung sometimes. But ultimately, I feel like my reintroduction to my faith didn't happen overnight. And I would say somebody going through this experience, if you're just like, I feel faithless and hopeless, and why do we even believe in anything? You're going to have to probably let yourself stop and rest, unfortunately. And that's going to be the hardest thing. It's going to be hard medicine that you need, because I find that for myself anyways, if any of this is resonating with you, if you feel like things have just been really hard needlessly, it can feel like you're being dunked on by God, by the universe for no reason. But looking at it in hindsight for myself now, I feel like moving to where I live now, though it is not perfect, though it is not exactly what I want, it's a really good holding place for me right now. I feel like I'm in a good place for me right now. I feel like me and my spouse are in a good place for us right now to build something different. And I feel like living here has been such a night and day difference from where I was, even with like our management that runs the building that we live in. Oh my gosh, professionals, what a concept. They are so good to us, so kind, so patient with anything. Like, can't even begin to express what a night and day difference that was. Um, so I feel like I'm a lot less stressed out because I don't have this like property manager on my back all the time stressing me out for nothing, for no reason than her own enjoyment. And she would also like fabricate things, like, and I would be able to prove it. Like, I could catch her in a lie so easily. She would fabricate crap all the time. Just monkey on my back. So like that really improved the quality of my life, even though it felt like it was falling apart and I couldn't see that yet. I feel like the advice that I would give is like sometimes when things are falling apart, even if it's hard to see, sometimes it means that things are actually falling together. Sometimes the experiences that you're having, even if they are the worst, the biggest hardship, sometimes it's actually making room for things to fall together. And that's kind of the space that I'm living in right now is I don't know how everything is going to work out. I don't really know what my next major step is going to be. I don't know where my life is going right now, what I'm doing. All I know is I'm committed to making content that I'm really proud of, making content that I feel like the world needs right now, whether it is just bringing more love into the world, more peace, more acceptance, more understanding, whatever that is at any given time, I'm committed to that, helping people feel seen and heard and understood and giving them the permission or giving you the permission to stand up and be your most authentic self. If me leading by example gets you to do that, then my mission has already been done. Like, that's, I feel like, what I really needed to reconnect and recommit with. And also like doing it in a really aesthetic way because that's just who I am. Okay. I feel like my worst self. And so many of you have told me, oh my gosh, so many of you have told me that you like, I've heard it literally from more than one person, that you love when I like move around in my apartment from different angles with the podcast. And I hate it. I prefer to have one solid set. I prefer it to look really polished and really nice because I'm just somebody that's really here for the aesthetics. Okay. When you look at my other YouTube channel where my pick a cards are, I want everything to be aesthetic. Like, I am such a, like, I have such a deep appreciation for beauty and aesthetics that that's always going to be me, is bringing you this like authentic energy, but doing it in a very pleasing and like aesthetically pleasing way. So always going to be the energy I bring to the table. But in any case, I feel like I've just rambled a lot about my crisis of faith, and maybe like that was just what I needed. And this episode isn't as formal as probably future episodes will be, but I hope if you're out there and you're struggling with your faith, just give it time. Give yourself time, give yourself grace, stop doing the things that are robbing you of your faith if you are able to. Obviously, I know that, like, sometimes you can't just quit your job tomorrow if that's the thing that's robbing you of your faith, but try to give yourself space and distance from it. Because even me, I didn't quit my job. Like, I still did tarot card readings, but I backed off a lot. I went from uploading 3 times a week to sometimes twice a month. Like, I really took a back seat in my life with that. And I needed to, I had to. My mental health, it was costing me my mental health, and that was too expensive. And I feel like now I'm kind of making this comeback around where I'm really excited to make content. I'm really happy with the things that I'm making. I'm proud of what I'm doing. And I'm doing it in a way that only I could do it. And I love that. I love the originality and the authenticity of it. And I feel like being connected with myself is step number 1. Being connected with yourself and what brings you joy and pleasure and happiness is step number 1. That's the tip of the iceberg. And then we can start to work on that connection beyond us. I do feel like sometimes being connected outside of yourself can come first and then the connection with yourself. But I feel like for me, my road back ultimately was reconnecting here first and asking myself, like, if I could choose happiness today, what would that look like? What would be the next best thing I could do for myself? If I could choose joy today, what would be the most joyful act of love I could do for myself today? And it really was kind of touch and go, a day at a time there for a while. And now I feel like I have so much more of a semblance of what I'm doing. Again, I don't feel like it's perfect by any stretch, but nor will it ever be. But I feel like I've come a really long way. I don't feel super faithless. I don't feel like I'm having a crisis of faith anymore. I feel way more connected to the work that I'm doing. And I don't even know that I'm all the way through it. Again, kind of like last week, I'm still very much human, having a human experience. But I think where I'm at right now, I'm okay with the like time that it's taking. I'm okay with the pace at which my life is going. It's that time again. It's time for our little Yapper Girl Corner segment. I don't even know exactly what we're calling it. Just know that it's the Yapper Girl section where we just yapper and I get to yammer on about things that I'm interested in, what I've been up to. And I feel like I want to talk about like spiritual things and tools that I have really liked as of late, or things that I feel like have actually helped me come back around, because I feel like it does kind of go in tandem with what we were talking about, but also I just haven't really updated anyone in a while. So first and foremost, am I still practicing witchcraft? I would say ultimately yes. Even though I haven't like done a big ritual or done anything major in quite some time, I definitely have not. Even though for a minute there, I was like, I might just denounce that and decide that I'm not a witch. I have definitely come back around, and I do feel like now I still believe that I'm a witch. I still think I'm into it. I'm not ready to put that one down. So still feeling pretty witchy. But on top of that, I feel like some of the tools that have actually helped me the most have been more on the rung of psychology. So first and foremost, I have gotten really into EFT tapping, which is emotional freedom technique tapping. My good friend Doogsley, if you're watching, hi Queen, my good friend Doogsley actually put me on to Tap with Brad. And he has a YouTube channel. Anything that you could think of, he's probably got some kind of EFT tapping session on it. Basically, EFT tapping, which is something I didn't know. EFT tapping is actually where you tap on meridians in the body, like the different points, pressure points in the body. So you start like right here. Then you tap, I want to say it's like over one of your eyes, like your eye, you tap to the side, you tap here, you do here. I think it's here, the chest, the top of the head, and then like under one of your armpits or something. I'd have to actually do it in succession with somebody showing me, but like it's in that succession while you are basically coming to a place of acceptance or speaking over your life in a certain way. So like, let's say you had a lot of limiting beliefs around money and you wanted to break those. You could do like listening to somebody else on YouTube walk you through it. You could do like basically just like being okay with where you are with money right now and accepting where you are right now, I feel like is kind of step one. And then it's basically disproving beliefs that you might have, or like giving yourself a different thought regimen than what you have been programmed to believe. And I want to say the thought behind it, or the intention behind it, is that the pressure points that you're touching or tapping on are similar to like acupuncture pressure points. And as you're like reprogramming your mind while you're doing it, it like adds some extra oomph to it. So anyways, I'm not a professional. I don't know like the exact science behind it, but I was actually led to this by the book You Have the Magic by, I can't remember what her first name is, but it's Hoffman Smith, something Hoffman Smith, Haley Hoffman Smith. She wrote this book and I devoured this book. I think I read it in like 2 sittings, and she talks a lot about EFT tapping because that's something that she herself teaches. And then it was like divine intervention. My friend Doogsley was like, oh, here's this really great person that I've listened to that has totally helped me. And it has just been so nice. I would say that the days that I use it, I feel like are better days. Like I have a better time. I have better days. I've been able to actually work through a panic attack using EFT tapping. And I feel like though it is not inherently spiritual, I do feel like it helps me to like calm down and come back to myself and get recentered and grounded so that I can be more spiritual and like attuned, you know? So I've been doing a lot of that. I've been reading so many books, y'all. Not only do we have that banned book club that I've been a part of now, but that I talked to you about last week, but I've also read You Have the Magic. I read Activate Your Future Self. I've read twice over now. It was so good. I read both of those weight loss books that I talked to you about last week as well. And those books aren't even really about like weight loss. They're really about like shifting your mindset and the psychology behind why we might self-sabotage weight loss efforts. And both of those were phenomenal books to read. I just devoured. I also recently read, if y'all are looking for some smut, okay, I recently read The Never List. I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited. This book, oh my gosh. I've never read a Why Choose before, which is where like it's a reverse harem. So that means that it's one female person, female lead usually, with a bunch of men. And it's a Why Choose because she picks all of them and they're all cool with it. Like all the guys that she's into, they're all cool sharing her. I've never read a book like that before, and gotta tell you, I was really into it. I liked it. I don't feel like it is my main trope. I definitely still really like an enemies to lovers. Monogamy is still for me, but it was like I would read more. I would read it again. Like it was something that I definitely still enjoyed, even if it's not my like main thing. I really enjoyed it. I felt like all of the characters, except for I didn't really enjoy Jax's character. It's one of the four guys. I did not really enjoy Jax's character. But anyways, if you want to know more about this book, it's basically about the main female lead who I cannot for the life of me remember her name. She is born to like I don't want to say lower class, but I guess like a more of like a poor faction of the city that they live in. And there's this thing in the city because they have like a king. They have four kings, four princes. There's four goddesses as well. The goddesses and the kings gave birth to the princes. The goddesses are asleep. And they're in order to like basically let the princes get into their full power, they have to find one mate that suits all of them. And so they do this thing every year called the choosing, where they invite a bunch of eligible bachelorettes and they choose one that all four of them then like spend a month. The girl will spend a month with each person, like each of their kingdoms. And this was so good. It was so well paced. It was so well paced. Every kingdom was fun. There is definitely going to be a sequel. The author is already working on it. I will tell you, the book does end on a cliffhanger, so just be prepared for that. I won't say any more if you're going to read it, but the smut was fantastic. It was really well paced. I felt like it was relatively like it was pretty well written, actually. I don't know why I feel like I have this thing in my head that tells me if it's on Kindle Unlimited, the writing must not be very good. But I think that's because a lot of books on Kindle Unlimited are like that. But there are so many good stories that are so well written that are fan fiction that are on Kindle Unlimited. And I think I still have it in my brain for some reason. If it's on Kindle Unlimited, it must not be very good because I've read a lot of crap. And it's not true. Like Scarlett St. Clair, my favorite author of all time, so much of her content is on Kindle Unlimited. So I don't know why I tell myself that. Like this book was so well written. I need to check myself. Thank you for witnessing that. But The Never List, if you're looking for it, I can't remember who wrote it, but if you look up The Never List, it will come up. But it was very, very, very good. Finished that, devoured that. Have I read anything else recently? I feel like y'all always want book recs, and I don't want to do dedicated book podcasts anymore because y'all let it flop. Nobody really wanted that episode. And it was so much work to put it together that I was like, nope, never again. We can just talk about it in the Yapper Girl section. We can talk about things that we're reading. So I feel like it's been a nice reintroduction though, like smut aside. I've been more into like self-help and psychology again, which for me, I feel like psychology and spirituality are very linked. And so when I learn new like psychological modalities or new psychological technique, I often will apply that into spiritual practice. So love that. I feel like that has been a huge thing that I like for a while when I was really going through it. I wouldn't even read self help. I was like, no, all these people have an idea of how I should run my life and none of them are correct. And, I think sometimes that is true, but I've been reading a lot more self help. I've been really into it. And I feel like I read like currently right now, I'm on an 11-week reading streak. By the time you see this, I'll probably be 13 weeks in. And I've read for like 68 days in a row. So I'm really on a good one with reading right now. Me and reading are like this. And that's been a fun vibe. Outside of reading, I have gotten back into like smoke cleansing, I guess you could say. There was a while there where I stopped doing that. I typically use dried rosemary a lot of the time to smoke cleanse, but I am also known to use ethically sourced sage, Palo Santo. But I feel like I stopped doing that for a while. And then I had a dream maybe like a week ago where there was just like a bunch of flies in my bedroom. And if you didn't know, flies can be a sign that like you've got some stank energy. Like if there are flies constantly landing on you, if they're all up in your house, like that can be a really key indicator that you need to cleanse your energy or cleanse the energy of your space or cleanse yourself. And I had a dream that my bed was like covered in them. And I was like, okay, so we need to be doing a little bit of cleansing work in here. So I've got like back into smoke cleansing, back into like doing all that. And that feels really nice, really like spiritually aligned with me. And also just like trusting the dreams that I have. I feel like I don't remember a lot of the dreams I have, but I always try to look at them like messages from my subconscious, because that's what they're there for. They're there to show you the parts of your mind that maybe you wouldn't have noticed in your conscious waking life. And, sometimes they also spit out a bunch of whack garbage. But I feel like if you can look at your dreams as every person in your dream is a fragment of you, it can really help you work through a lot of stuck energy. So I really like dream observation. And if I can remember them, I try to like pay attention to that, to whatever's going on in there. So I feel like that's been really cool and really interesting. And I mean, I don't know that I've ever really quit praying. Even when I like stopped being religious, denounced the Mormon faith, got into witchcraft, I don't know if there was ever a time in my life where I just like quit praying cold turkey. I feel like I've always been somebody that has been known to pray, even if I don't feel like I'm praying to like capital God. I've always been one to just kind of, I feel like it's good. It's good to converse with the universe at large. It's good to kind of let things out and let yourself, whether it's your pain, your joy, no matter what, it's good to just kind of process that out, no matter if you believe you're talking to somebody or not. So I do feel like prayer is good. And something else, I don't know if we've touched on this before, we might have. I think it is good and fine to be mad as hell at God and to tell him that. I think that it's weird that, and like religiously growing up, I was definitely given this impression that when you address God, like, the universe, the goddess, whatever, when you address that spiritual part, you are supposed to come in like reverence and softness and gratitude only, and then ask for reprieve from your problems or to bless people around you. And I've just got to tell you, have you ever hit capital God with an FU? Because I feel like the times when I have been the most angry and I have been like, you really let me down. You really messed me up and I'm not okay and you need to make it right. Like, it is those times where I get the most clarity on my life. It is those times when I feel like things dramatically change. And I think it's because I treat my relationship with, I'm going to say God here, I treat my relationship with God like I would another person. Like, just because they might know more, just because they might be the bigger me, just because they might have some kind of, we have separation. We say in this plane that there is so much separation there. I don't treat it like that. I feel like if my best friend had the power to help me out the way that I know that God can, and was letting me down like that over and over and over and over, I'm going to say something to my friend. You know what I mean? And it's not always going to be pretty and nice and polished and with gratitude. And I do. I feel like the times that I've let myself be mad and I've let myself express that, I have gained like more. I have gained more clarity. And I think it's that I really have gotten to a place where I foster that relationship as one like I would with anyone else in my life. You know, I stay connected. I continue to pray because if my friend and I hadn't talked in a while, I'd want to call them. You know, I'd want to talk to them. And I don't just tell God my highlight reels. I tell him about my sorrow, my trouble, the things that bother me, the things that I would like help with. And I also, of course, ask for like protection and help with my family and help making decisions and, whatever it might be. I feel like, again, I've never really stopped praying, but I do feel like my evolution of prayer is very different. It's not so formal as it used to be. And I'm a lot more casual with the big G man. And I don't even know when I say God, I don't think it's like a white man on a cloud. I look at God as genderless. I look at God as it's not the same. It's not the way that it was taught to me in like a Christian based faith. Not that I think there's anything wrong with that. Like, do what works for you. But I've had to like really dismantle what it means to even say the word God. And I feel like I've come back around to that. I've come back around to sometimes I feel like I say he as like a slip of the tongue because I grew up that way, but I don't necessarily, when I really think about what I believe, I don't necessarily believe that God is a he. I don't even know if I believe that there is gender there. Anyways, I feel like those are some of the spiritual things I've been more invested in. I definitely am someone that tends to lead with heavy logic over unexplained, but not always. I'll let myself follow that intuition to the intuitive path. I do feel like I'm a lot more resistant to it though. But I guess if I could say one more thing in terms of like the spiritual side for me is I do think during this process of really losing my faith and having such a breakdown, I have gotten to a place where I think surrendering is easier for me than it used to be. And don't get me wrong, not perfect, still human, but I do feel like in terms of surrendering, I am able to do it with so much more grace and kindness towards myself. And I'm able to stop myself and go, you know what? I don't have the answer right now. I don't have the solution right now. And it's okay for me to let this go. It's okay for me to put this down. It's okay for this to not be okay, for me to not try to control the outcome and to not be worried about it and to just let it go and give it to God and let it go. And obviously, I might pick it up 2 hours later and stress out again, but like it is constantly returning to that practice of surrender. And I mentioned this actually in one of my more recent pick a cards. I talked about how I've had trouble paying my car probably since like after the first like 6 to 8 months that I've had it. And mostly because at the time that I bought it, I could afford it. I was in a really good place. And within like 8 months of purchasing it, I have not been able to afford it. And it's something that has constantly weighed on me heavily. As a disabled person, my car is something that I need. On top of that, like my car, I wouldn't say that I live in a walkable city or even like a public, I mean, there are buses, I suppose, but I feel like for me, it makes sense. And having a car is a luxury, but this is something that I don't know how I'm going to be able to solve. Like, I'm at a point where I owe so much on that car. I don't know how I'm going to dig myself out of that hole. It's been out for Rebo for a really long time. I don't know how I'm going to fix it. And I used to every day be so stressed out. And I don't know why I feel called to talk about this. Maybe somebody is struggling in a similar way. I used to be so stressed out every single day. And I would like look out my window first thing in the morning and see if my car was still there. And same with like, I would also think about like, what will my family say? What will my family think if I don't have a vehicle and this gets taken away from me? What will like, if there's any belief that I'm an irresponsible person, it's going to bring all that to the surface and other people are going to judge me and blah, 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 blah. And I finally just came to this place where I was like, you know what? If the money becomes available for me to fix this, it's the first thing I'm going to do. I would love to not have this weight on my shoulder. I would love to not have this devil on my shoulder. And I say devil lightly because I don't necessarily even believe in the devil, but like I would give anything to not have to deal with this. But right now, I'm in a situation where I'm doing the best that I can. I'm doing the best that I can. If it costs me my mental health, it's too expensive. And I'm doing the best that I can. I've gone through phases of my life where I have worked insane hours so that I could make ends meet. I'm not willing to do that to myself anymore. If I have to lose this car, I would rather lose it. Even though that's not what I want, I would much rather prefer to be able to hold on to it. I would much rather prefer to be able to turn it around. But I'm just not in that position right now. And it's okay that I'm not in that position right now. So, like, what I'm really trying to get at, and I'm not asking for like pity, like, it's, I'm telling you, I would wake up in a state of fight or flight every single morning about this car. And for honestly months. And finally, I got to this point where I was like, if I can't do anything about it to change it right now, worrying doesn't do anything to help me. Like, I know what it feels like to worry and think that that helps me create solutions, but you can actually create solutions without worrying. Like, and I feel like that just, it gave me a totally new perspective. Tapping with Brad, man, tapping with Brad gave me that perspective of like, you don't need to worry to find a solution. And it's okay to just say, like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. And it's not for me to worry about. It doesn't mean I'm going to forget about it. It doesn't mean I'm going to purposefully shirk on my responsibility. But right now, it is not a top priority. My rent is a higher priority. The food on my table is a higher priority. The clothes on my back are a higher priority, right? Like, I have things in my life that are a priority right now. And like, though that is high priority, it's not life or death. And I don't need to be activating my nervous system every single day like it is life or death. It is a car that I would love to keep. I would love to hold on to, but I'm not in a position right now where I can really make that work. And, someday I hope that I am. I hope that with the effort that I'm putting in right now, I get to a place where that is going to make more sense. But where I'm at in my life right now, it doesn't. And that's okay. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm an irresponsible person. Like all of these stories that we put on ourselves, no matter what the situation is, these stories of what other people will think, or maybe what parents have said to us, or friends have said, or somebody that heard your situation and immediately started judging you. Maybe you've heard things. Me even saying this out on the internet, I'm sure some people have some type of way of feeling about it. But at the end of the day, like, if it costs me my mental health, it's too expensive. And all I can do is what I can do. Like, I recognize that what I'm doing right now is enough. And if there is a better option, it's going to be presented to me. The better option will come through. I have whole and complete faith in that. And anyways, I feel like the Yapper Girl Corner was a little more serious today. We had a little less of a fun chat, but that's my point, is like, I feel like I've gotten a lot better about surrendering and just saying, like, you know what? I can't do anything to fix this right this minute. What can I do? Let's make sure I do that. But outside of that, if I can't do anything, I'm stressing isn't going to bring me a solution. And I kind of feel the same way right now with like the state of the world, the current climate, if you will, without going too heavily into it. I feel like it's that belief that has helped me a lot. Like, there was a day a couple weeks ago where I woke up in the middle of the night, like profusely sweating and stressed out about the state of the world, just out of nowhere. And the way that I calmed down was I actually asked myself, what can I do about this? Is there anything I can do? Because right now we're just spiraling on all the things we can't do, everything out of our control, nothing that we can change. Is there something I can do? And the answer that came to me was, what would love do? What would love do? And if I could give the world more love, what would love do? Love would show up for that podcast. Love would make those pick a cards. Love would read those books. Love would be kinder to myself. Love would check on my neighbors, my friends, my family. That's what love would do. And that's what I have time and space for right now. If it costs me my mental health, it's too expensive. I actually had to go on another news fast. Like, I don't know what happened. I was not somebody that was a connoisseur of the news. And I think some of the stuff just hit a little too close to home for me. And I got really invested in the news for a couple of weeks and it like messed me up. Like, if y'all are watching the news and you have the privilege to not watch the news all the time, please, I beg you, take a break. Please, I beg you, turn it off. If you have the privilege of not having to listen to it constantly because you're not in a situation where you need that vital information, turn it off. It like the way that I had such a different experience listening to the news. I don't even think it was 2 weeks. It was like a couple of days. I was a different person. And it just affects the mental health so bad. You were never supposed to be capable of holding that much, bestie, ever. Your brain was not supposed to hold that much panic, that much upset. No matter what you believe, you were never supposed to hold all of that. And you're also not like listening to it if it doesn't empower you and it makes you feel helpless and hopeless and it divides you. Maybe just consider a little vacation from that or a permanent one. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like the show and you want to support it, please consider supporting my Patreon. That is the number one place you can support the making of this show. If you would like to, you can also hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're on YouTube, leave me a rating, leave me a review anywhere else. I would really appreciate it. It helps us get seen by more people. And if you'd like to follow me, I have my tarot channel, Chloe Taylor. I also have a Blue Sky, a TikTok, an Instagram. I'm at Chloe Taylor. And if you'd like to talk to more people like myself and others, please consider joining our Discord. A link for that down below. And I also have courses available, private readings, all kinds of stuff on my website, chloetaylor.com. In the future, if you would like advice and you want that done in an episode format, please submit advice at my website as well. There's an Ask Chloe tab where you can ask me for advice on what you're currently experiencing, and I will make a dedicated podcast in answering the questions that you provide. So thank you so much for tuning in. Do not forget to follow your plan and not your mood. Bye.